To the channel and another weekly horoscope video. This week is pretty interesting. We're kind of wrapping up our cycles with what was transiting through Virgo most of the summer and over the South Node with Venus. So I do think this could bring back themes from the Venus retrograde we had earlier in the year, because it's Venus on the South Node is really a big release of any outdated mindset or belief systems we have with finances, relationships, self-worth, our value, like our, depending on where Virgo is in your chart, we'll go over that for each rising sign in the horoscopes. But Venus and Virgo on the South Node is like what needs to be released that maybe was holding you back from being embodied in your value or being embodied in these things you desire to have in terms of your finances or your relationships. Um, Venus and Virgo has a tendency to be, and with the South Node there, this is amplified. We have all had to really overcome themes with this transit of perfectionism, of being overly self-critical. It's kind of like all on high alert since January 11th when this shift happened. And the South Node is really tricky in that way because it's not what we're meant to be focused on, right? We're meant to be focused on where's the North Node. That's like where our collective is kind of growing into. That's the direction that we're headed as a collective and what we're meant to be focused on. But the South Node is like our comfort zone. It's what we know, it's habit. And so anything that transits the South Node or whatever sign the South Node is currently in are really major themes of release and letting go. And so Venus moving over the South Node, especially with Libra season, Libra is ruled by Venus. So anything that's happening with Venus right now, because we're in Libra season, is really important. Also, Mercury is in Libra. So we have mutual reception between Venus and Mercury because they are in each other's rulers. I talked about this more. Where did I talk about this more? I feel like maybe in one of my recent classes in my membership. I don't remember exactly where I've talked about this, but mutual reception is really fascinating because when we have that going on in the sky, it's like those two planets are really feeding each other and amplifying the energy. So Venus on the South Node, which is going to peak this upcoming weekend, is a really big, what do I want to say, like amplification of that energy of whatever we've been facing with the South Node and Virgo in general. Um, so lots of like excavation happening in our mindset and our belief systems, and our communication styles as well. There's just a lot of refinement going on with Venus transiting Virgo and then it going to be moving over the South Node this week. Um, so that's really the overview. We also have a first quarter moon in Capricorn, so there will be a lot of steps that we take to move forward towards whatever new beginning we've been embarking on this whole year. I've said this many times in my content, but 2025 is a 9 year, and a 9 year is all about endings. It's all about, especially like karmic cycles ending, coming to a close, so we can just excavate the old and clear out anything that residually has been in our energies that we don't need. So we can build from a solid foundation that's going to benefit us on the long term and moving forward. Um, so we're wrapping up a 9 year right now. And especially, like I said, with everything that has been moving over the South Node and this kind of completion of it, we're really going to see those leftover things we need to let die and let go of come to a head. I mean, it's also fall, so tis the season of letting go, of releasing the old so we can have space for the new. I think 2026 is going to be a big year of that. So yeah, that's the overall energy of this week. Also important, we're going to have a T-square between Mercury and Libra, Chiron and Aries, and Jupiter and Cancer. So there will be a big need for us to have, like I said, a foundation in our lives in whatever way we need right now to feel grounded, to feel nurtured, and to feel supported through the challenges that are occurring. And like I've also been saying in my weekly updates, I feel like every week for the past few weeks, focusing on the positive, focusing on what we can be grateful for, and practicing the feeling of that gratitude as much as we possibly can, because there are going to be challenges, but they're also balanced out with harmony and potential miracles if we're open to seeing them and we take our blinders off and allow ourselves to see them. So that is this week. Let's get into the weekly horoscopes. Start with Aries as always. Oh man, I had this pulled up and then I totally like refreshed it and on accident. Okay, Aries Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your 10th house. There's going to be an emotional focus at the start of the week on your career, on your public image, reputation. There could be something you're inspired to take action on around that on Monday, later in the day on Monday. This Venus South Node conjunction is also going to affect your career in some way, or at least like what you're doing for work on a daily basis. Could also affect your health and wellness routine, something like that. Whatever you do on a daily basis to make money and whatever you do on a daily basis to take care of yourself could be a focus of needing to change something up, whether minor or major. And then as we get into Tuesday, there could be some challenging conversation you have to have with somebody, maybe related to these changes that are going on for you. It could feel like also there's a push and pull energy between your career and whatever's going on in your home or family. Um, could maybe also trigger some identity things because um, this is like really challenging energy. It's called a grand cross, and it is when we have four planets squaring each other in different signs. So it's like this big tension, this big kind of ball of challenge or conflict. Um, but it does feel like there's something maybe going on in your circle, your friend group, or your community that can help you work through these challenges so that you don't maybe get hung up on them, or allow yourself to get discouraged by them because it is just going to be like a temporary frustration. And then as we get into Wednesday, the moon moves over Pluto and into your 11th house. It's going to harmonize with Uranus in your third. This could bring about some positive emotional shift, maybe related to what came up earlier in the week of like maybe feeling not supported and then you ask for help or you get help from a friend or something like that. And there is this like emotional shift of, oh, I do have the support that I need. I just had to ask for it, that kind of thing. As we get into Thursday, the moon is going to harmonize Thursday into Friday with Mercury and Libra. So that could also lead to some positive conversations and just result in some emotional shifts, related to maybe even your long-term goals, visions, your perspective of the people around you as a whole and your community as a whole as well. Friday and into the weekend. Let me see. We're gonna have um yeah, that could also happen on Friday as well because the moon is gonna harmonize with Mercury, like I said, Thursday into Friday, and then that will be a theme most of Friday. Friday into Saturday, the moon is moving into Pisces. It's gonna harmonize probably early on Saturday. Yeah, Friday night, Saturday morning. With Mars and Scorpio. So this could be whatever has happened earlier this week. This could be the kind of culmination of a big shift within your inner world. Maybe something emotional as well. Over the weekend, I think there's going to be a lot of clarity that emerges from whatever was challenging. It's like the energy of you seeing it differently and it actually working out in a way that you didn't expect, but was more beneficial than what you could have predicted or planned for. And then as we get into Sunday, I think that's just going to be really the theme of the weekend for you, Saturday and Sunday. But then later on Sunday, the moon moves over Saturn. right after it harmonizes with Jupiter. So this could create a positive shift in your home, maybe related to like a spiritual practice you've been really disciplined with. Maybe Saturn going back into your 12th house was like, okay, you fell off your meditation practice or whatever, and now you got back into it and you're realizing how helpful it is for you, and that could really shift things emotionally as well. Um, there could also be some things Friday into Saturday that maybe trigger um this shift in you as it relates to like your sense of self. I feel like you're gaining a lot of confidence and empowerment in how you view yourself and how you just present yourself to the world. So that's the week ahead for you, Aries. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I will see you next week. Okay, Taurus Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your ninth house. This could be some mindset shift. I feel like Taurus for you, the last few weeks, maybe even the last few months, they're all kind of blurring together at this point. But I feel like it's been a lot of you needing to ask for support in ways that you maybe never thought you would need. And it's really shifting a lot about your belief systems, your mindset, and just really how you go through life. And so there could be something on Monday that kind of inspires that in you or motivates that big shift, this big picture shift of like how you're viewing the world around you based on having support from the people around you. On Tuesday, there could be some conversation you have that challenges that as well. It's almost like you might have to really stand your ground within your work or within like anybody you interact with on a daily basis. There could be something to do with really needing to just like assert yourself, and not, if you've been like a pushover with something, to not be anymore. It could really trigger something within your subconscious that you maybe didn't realize was still affecting you. And I feel like this has been a theme over and over for you, Taurus, but it's really continuing to show up at deeper and deeper levels so that you really like purge everything that wasn't serving you, things you didn't see, right? It's like you can't change something and evolve and grow if you don't know what's going on underneath the surface. So it's like bringing everything up so that you see it and can shift it. Then as we get into Wednesday, the emotional mood kind of shifts and there's a focus on your career and on what you're doing to make money. You might have all of a sudden a lot more work to do and are figuring out like how to manage it or how to better schedule or structure your time to be able to take things on. There might also be something you're realizing you can't do right away, or like some project you need to kind of put on the back burner so you can focus on other things. As we get into, that could really be a theme of like the whole week, is like this push and pull energy between wanting to do something new, but also realizing you might not have like all the support you need or the systems in place or the people, um, or the time or the energy to do this thing in the way that you want to do it. So it's maybe like you're realizing you have to put it on the back burner for a little bit until everything comes together. Um, as we get into the weekend, Friday into Saturday, the moon moves into your 11th house and puts the focus on your community. I think Wednesday to Friday, you could really be focused on work and like grinding. But then as we get into the weekend, I do think that's energy is going to shift and maybe you'll be doing a lot more social things or feeling more social. And that could also help support you in this realization of like, okay, I need to pick my priorities and only focus on like what is truly exciting me the most right now that I have the time and energy for, as opposed to like holding on to the hope of making something happen that just isn't flowing how it needs to. Does that make sense? You could get some emotional clarity around that over the weekend, like I said, maybe from your circle or from your friend groups. But it could really trigger some subconscious things to be brought up so that you aren't moving forward with the same kind of programming or belief system that you have been. So that's what we got for you, Taurus. Let me know how it resonates, and I'll see you next week. All right, Gemini Rising. We start the week off the moon in your eighth house. Challenging the sun in your fifth. There could be something with finances that you have to act on, or um, something like that that maybe challenges your creative pursuits or abilities in some way temporarily. I mean, there's a lot of harmony for you happening in your sense of self and your identity and like shifting your perspective of life. But it's kind of happening like at a quieter level underneath the surface. And whatever happens Monday into Tuesday could bring it up for you to kind of see how much you are changing and growing as a person through all of this, even if things feel chaotic or unstable. As we get into Tuesday, there could be some conversation you have to have with somebody that's maybe challenging um, later on Tuesday, maybe about money or shared finances and things like that. Venus is approaching the South Node in your fifth house. It's going to peak as we get into the weekend, in your fourth house, sorry. And that could really bring about some release as it relates to home or family stuff. Um, it's almost like don't get distracted by the mundane details of what's going on with that and just kind of let it flow. Because the major focus for you is really on your external life, not so much on your home life. As we get into Wednesday, the moon is moving over Pluto in your ninth house. I feel like there could be this big epiphany or random shift, transformation in your mindset, your perspective of life. Maybe your philosophies of life are really changing. Um, and there's going to be emotional clarity around that as well. That maybe also, like I said, shifts your sense of self, shifts your identity in some major way. There could also be some harmony with like dating, romance, Wednesday into Thursday, maybe related to that, or with creative pursuits, passion projects, things like that. Um, that kind of just continues into Thursday. There could be a conversation you have with somebody about those things, about creative passions or projects, pursuits. Like I said, maybe romance or dating as it applies. That just kind of supports this shift that's going on for you in a lot of ways. Like I said, it's like it's kind of like your inner world is recalibrating to this new life. And it's kind of creating this space for epiphanies. Then as we get into the weekend, the moon is moving into your 10th house, so you're going to be focused on your career. There could be some emotional drive towards your career to create new things or just getting ideas, downloads, revelations related to what came up earlier in the week and bringing them forth within your career. You could also just maybe be feeling more social over the weekend too. Maybe that is um, what is the phrase I'm looking for? Like going to support your career in some way or Um, yeah, I just see kind of mingling with people. And then as we get into Saturday and Sunday, there's this big, again, emotional focus on what direction you're headed in your career, and what creative pursuits are needed in order to have that new alignment. Um, but again, there could be some big release within, I don't know, something going on in your home. It feels like there's a big shift as well that supports your career. Or maybe there's something you have to learn how to balance between your home and your career, your home, your family life, and your public image and reputation life. And then as we get into Sunday, I think there's going to be this renewed sense of discipline and commitment towards what's going on in your career and just putting more focus and energy there. So that's what we got for you. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. All right, Cancer Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your seventh house of relationships. There could be something that is challenging between what's going on in your home and your family life and what's going on with the relationships. Maybe that's romantic, maybe not. It could just be a partnership, business wise, or somebody in your life is maybe pulling you away from focusing on what you're wanting to do in your home or with family. It's kind of like, okay, I want to do this, but I have to take care of this kind of thing. I feel like there's a lot of changes happening within your routines, your day-to-day stuff, especially as we have Venus approaching the South Node in your third house this week. It's like, okay, what about your day-to-day life or your habits, your routines, your where you go to run errands or get coffee or whatever kind of needs to shift. And that energy is gonna build all week. Could also be something that somebody mirrors to you, or like you get inspired by somebody around that on Tuesday. But again, there could also be this like emotionally challenging conversation you have to have um, about what's going on in your career and your home. That kind of those things feel like at odds with one another, and it feels like this great balancing act between your expansion, healing your reputation or public image, or how you present yourself to the world, and then like conversations you have to have with home or with family, and then like it's kind of this big like cluster. Um, but I do feel like it will give you the answers you need on if you how do I say that? Whatever's been feeling foggy, the fog is going to lift and you're going to get the answers you need on what needs to change. As especially as we get into Wednesday and the moon moves into your eighth house over Pluto, harmonizing with Uranus and Gemini. Whatever happened Monday and Tuesday, it's going to support this big shift internally with you on Wednesday as this transit occurs. But again, it also feels like there's just some hard conversations you have to have. And that might even be what's causing these realizations or these epiphanies on what needs to change. Especially as we get into Thursday and the moon harmonizes with Mercury. There could be a positive conversation you have about finances with somebody you live with or in your home or with family. That again kind of supports these big shifts that you're making and have been stepping into. As we get into Friday, the moon moves into Pisces in your ninth house. I feel like you could be focused on you might be feeling a little dreamy or planning some trip somewhere that kind of breaks up the energy. But also on later on Friday night, it feels like there's kind of this emotional turmoil. You might feel like scattered, or if you are international traveling this weekend, it could, or just traveling long distance, it could feel kind of chaotic at first. That's his energy, but I do feel like there's something that or someone that comes in to kind of support and bring it all together. And then over the weekend, there's a big release of whatever was feeling chaotic, whatever was kind of maybe stuck in your mindset around things that you were like, what is that word? Like fixating on. And it also feels like there's emotional support towards expansion in terms of you and feeling more grounded in your routines. Like, again, those have really been changing, but I feel like by the weekend, you're going to have this rhythm and feel more attuned, aligned with what you're doing to support yourself and nurture yourself. So that is the week I have for you, Cancer. Let me know how it resonates, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Leo Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your sixth house in Capricorn. There can be some big kind of emotional drive to shift what you're doing on a daily basis. Maybe you got a new job and you're having to like really be disciplined with a routine that is maybe not your normal routine, or maybe you fell out of a routine in between jobs and you're having to like get back on one. That's kind of this energy that's going to continue into Tuesday, but you could have a helpful conversation with somebody just on a whim, like running an errand somewhere and you run into somebody or something, or you call a friend and they help you kind of figure out some best practices for how to kind of integrate yourself back into a routine that feels supportive for you and feels just helpful. There could be some push and pull energy as we get into Wednesday between that and what you're doing for work on a daily basis, and maybe something that's going on like in your inner world, your subconscious. Um, I feel like there's been this really big focus on your inner world, but on Wednesday it could feel like you're pulled between your inner world and taking time to kind of be with yourself and what's going on externally. There could also be something about that that triggers a belief system or triggers you to kind of look at life differently and see everything. I know I've been talking about this a lot, but like see the beauty in everything, like kind of find the silver lining. as much as you can. As we get into Thursday, the moon moves over Pluto into your seventh house. There could be a shift in your relationships, maybe supported through a friend or a social outing. Whatever's been going on with your relationships, there could be a big kind of sudden, unexpected emotional shift around it on Thursday. And then, yeah, later on Thursday, it could be supported by, again, like I said, a conversation with somebody. I feel like there's this week for you, Leo, is all about the conversations you have with people and either them giving you motivation to do something or change something or inspiration, or just like helping you with actual tangible practical things you can do to help whatever is going on in your kind of mental space. Or with money too. I mean, that's where the Venus South Node conjunction is happening for you over the weekend. It's really in your finances and your possessions. So this could be the a big push for you to finally like get rid of things, donate stuff, sell stuff, and really just kind of refine what you have so that you really only have things that feel great to you. Could also apply to what you're doing to make money. It's also seemed like a big theme for you these past few weeks and months, Leo, is like, what are you doing to make money? If it doesn't feel aligned, how can you refine it? What do you want to change about it so that it feels better and it feels more aligned? That's going to be a focus over the weekend as well, especially Saturday and Sunday, as the moon is going to be moving through your eighth house in Pisces. It is going to harmonize with Mars on Saturday in your fourth house. So again, there could really be this push over the weekend to organize your stuff, and to just get really clear on what you want to have around you and what like you just need to let go of. And that could really trigger you maybe if you have a lot of sentimental stuff, but it could also bring about healing of like, okay, I don't need to hold on to this thing to have the memory of it, is the energy. So that's the week ahead for you, Leo. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. All right, Virgo rising. We start the week off with the moon in your fifth house. Could be a big focus on your dating life, could also be a focus on your creative passions or projects, whatever you're kind of like embarking on, as it relates to creativity. And there could be some momentum or some drive later on Monday to make money. Or there could be a new opportunity that comes in, a creative opportunity that comes in to make more money, because that's really the focus of Libra season for you is on your finances. So cleaning them up, doing things that really feel more aligned for you to be bringing money in, and then also what you're doing with that money. This can also apply to food and your possessions as well. So take it as it resonates, but that's the major focus is really on your stuff, your money. And also, as we approach the weekend, all week this energy is going to be building of Venus moving over the South Node in your first house. There's a big release of an identity, a reliance maybe on, I think I've been talking about this the last few weeks for you, Virgo, but this kind of, you're stepping into a new version of your worth and really starting to see your value in ways that maybe you didn't before. So that's going to be really culminating all week and going to peak over the weekend. But backtracking a little bit, on Tuesday, the moon is going to harmonize with Venus in your fifth and first houses. This could be like kind of creative inspiration that maybe also helps you to see yourself differently and really see your value and like see how amazing you are at something if you maybe have felt like what you do is mundane or like there's always this like perfectionistic mindset, and I feel like you're healing from it. On Wednesday, the moon is going to be opposite Jupiter in your fifth house. So there could be a lot of friction or tension between um, this emotional pull towards creativity, your inspiration, and what's going on with money, conversations around money, wounds around money, especially from like generational stuff or family stuff around resources and feeling supported by money, as well as like what is going on in your community. It kind of feels like all of these things are like challenging each other on Wednesday, but there still is harmony between what you're doing for work and how to take care of yourself and your career. So you might like it might just be best for you to put your energy into like what you're creating, what you're doing, instead of like what is challenging or what is feeling like conflict. As we get into Thursday, the moon moves over Pluto into your sixth house. Again, this focus on work. There could be this big emotional transformation around what you're doing for work, or maybe just getting more epiphanies on how to manage your time better so that you have the space and the energy for all these new things that are coming about, or that you have this kind of structure, system, schedule in place to be able to do what you need to do so that you don't feel scattered. As we get into Friday, there could be some conversation you have around money, maybe related to that and what you're doing um, in your day to day for money. Again, like this change to your schedule could free up some more time to take on a project you didn't think you were going to have time for, but because you looked at everything and like really ironed it out, it opened up some opportunity. And you're like, oh, actually, I can't. Let me call this person. I actually can do whatever or take on that project. And then as we get into the weekend, the Venus South Node conjunction is peaking on Saturday. The moon moves into Pisces into your seventh house. So there's an emotional focus on your relationships. Maybe going somewhere with a significant other or with somebody in your life that really feels supportive for you. There could be some momentum towards like, how do I want to say that? I don't know. It feels like there's this emotional drive to do something that is going to help boost your creativity even more. If you maybe got bogged down by those conflicts and challenges earlier in the week, it feels like by the weekend you're like, okay, I need to shift my energy. I need to put it into something that feels fun and helps inspire me, as opposed to keep me stuck in like challenge and conflict. So that is the week ahead for you, Virgo. Let me know how that resonates. Feels like a week to get out of your head. A lot more than usual. And I'll see you next week. Okay, Libra Rising. We start the week off the moon in your fourth house. At the start of the week, you're going to be emotionally focused on your home, family life. There could be something that happens in your home that maybe kind of triggers you to look at yourself differently or change something about your appearance, your identity. There's this big potential, like Monday into Tuesday, for a shift around you related to your foundations and your roots. Maybe that's getting more clarity on what you need in a home and what you need to feel supported in your living situation. Especially as we get into Tuesday, there could be some shift in your subconscious that comes from all of that, like in your belief systems. Because your chart ruler is transiting the South Node this week. I mean, it's a big energy of like mindset release, subconscious blockage release, really kind of feeling this death and rebirth in your inner world. As we get into Wednesday, there could be a challenging conversation that you have, maybe related to home. But it also feels like it's challenging wounds in relationships. It's challenging expansion in your career. But how do I say that? Like the way to combat it or what to do about this energy to shift it is to really just focus on what is working and your creative pursuits. Maybe even like spending time in nature or doing things that really like fill your cup so that you have that creative inspiration to lean on as opposed to like being bogged down by the challenges and the conflict. As we get into Thursday, the moon moves into your fifth house, kind of creating the emotional landscape for a transformation related to inspiration and creativity. Also going to support the shift that's happening with you. So it kind of feels like the first half of the week is maybe a lot of blockages or conflict, and maybe just kind of feeling stuck in something. But I do feel like by Thursday it's going to lift, and there's going to be this like aha moment or epiphany. And you're going to start to see things really shift in a big way, and that kind of gears us up for the weekend when we have the Venus South Node conjunction on Saturday. On Friday, there could be some harmony in a conversation you have with somebody, maybe related to what's been going on for you, that kind of also propels you into a shift related to creativity, maybe even romance or dating, if that applies. Um, that feels like the major focus of Friday. And then as we get into the weekend, Saturday, the moon moves into your sixth house into Pisces. it is going to harmonize with Mars in your second. So again, there could be this like creative inspiration to do something differently or to share something with the world, launch something in order to kind of bring up your finances or create a positive shift in your finances. And then that's really going to be the focus of the weekend. And again, it's probably related to like what's going on in your mindset that is kind of shifting your inner world and how you view money, how you view relationships. There's a big shift happening at the subconscious level. You might not even know fully that it's happening or have an ability to like talk about it, but it's really happening at like a super deep internal level. And then I feel like by the end of the weekend, you're gonna feel this lightness from all that has shifted um, this whole week. So that's what we got for you, Libra. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Scorpio rising. We start the week off with the moon in your third house. It's going to be challenging the sun in your 12th. This could be a big shift within your communication styles or just like maybe even how you're talking to yourself. Or yeah, who you're allowing around you that maybe influencing your mindset, your communication styles as well. It's kind of like maybe you're realizing this week um, that you need to kind of shift the people you're spending time around or the content you're consuming because it's maybe affecting you in ways that aren't desirable. With Mars in your first house too, challenging Pluto in your fourth, it's not comfy energy. It's really challenging energy between like you and what's going on in your home, the shifts you're wanting to make there or have been making in your home or family life. When Mars was in my first house, it was a real struggle not to like yell at people. So I feel like for you, Scorpio, there needs to be this outlet that you have in order to kind of channel that energy into something productive so that you don't maybe, if people need yelled at, they need yelled at. But like if it's just getting to be too much, um, have an outlet for it, for that energy to like, yeah, transmute it because you are the transmuter. As we get into Tuesday, I feel like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you're gonna be really busy, like just in your day to day, doing things, going places, running errands, things like that. There could, on Tuesday, be something that kind of maybe social that you do, or there could be this creative inspiration to share your ideas, to share yourself in a new way on social media, if that applies, or just like call somebody up that you need to talk to, or like even if you need to vent. It feels like there's harmony between like talking out your feelings with somebody that's really gonna be a maybe a neutral soundboard for you to do so. And then as we get into Wednesday, I think there's going to be something that maybe challenges you in your day to day, that has you kind of look at a belief or a subconscious perspective of life. Tuesday into Wednesday really is just kind of 2 days full of tension. Um, there could be a lot of things really triggering you in your routine, in your day to day, like I said. And it feels like it is helping you grow and evolve, but it's not comfortable. It's, yeah, it's not comfortable, but it is going to change like your outlook on life and really focus on the positives of what you have around you, who you have around you that's really supporting you through this change and through this evolution. Because as we get later into Wednesday, there is going to be an emotional shift. As the moon moves over Pluto in your fourth house, this could relate to your home, your living situation, family. It does feel like there's a positive shift occurring. So don't let the challenges of the early week get you down too bad, because it does feel like there's a lot of support for you happening, even if you kind of have to like really be intentional about focusing on it and seeing it. But I do feel like the second half of the week is more prone to that energy, more being able to kind of easily focus on the good and focus on the positive. And really, it's like this fog is lifted and we're seeing things more clearly. Um, Again, also, as we get into the weekend and we have that Venus South Node conjunction peaking in your 11th house, there could be a big release of people in your life, of a community. Maybe this is related to a move or something like that. Could also be with social media. Maybe you're deleting some apps and changing platforms or what have you. But on Friday, there could be some conversation that maybe supports that change and supports that shift that you take action on over the weekend. Saturday and Sunday too, there could be this boost of inspiration, of emotional creativity, towards what you're doing and what you're changing, maybe about work or career, um, or just like helping yourself, helping better support yourself through all the changes, so that they don't feel as chaotic and unstable. So that's what we had for you, Scorpio. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Sagittarius Rising. We start the week off the moon in your second house. You're gonna be really the first half of the week emotionally focused on money, resources, possessions. Maybe you've changed homes or thinking about moving, and that's kind of like, they're feeding into each other of like, okay, well, if I'm gonna move or what have you, I need to downsize or I need to get rid of stuff. It feels very like organizationally focused. That could also be taking place in your career, especially on Tuesday, as we're going to have the moon harmonizing with Venus in the South Node in your 10th house. That could support a release of something in your career, stepping into something new, or just like refining what you have been doing um, in the public space, in the public world, like what you've really, your reputation. Tuesday into Wednesday too, there is going to be a lot of friction between your money, other people's money, maybe dating, romance, creativity, and community, your friend groups, or presence on social media. Don't let don't let yourself get sucked down or bogged down into like the triggers or the wounds that are coming up. It feels like the major focus to like shift this energy is on the people you have around you and maybe putting your time, your focus into things on a daily basis that are going to help you feel supported, and help you kind of remember the miracles of life. Because otherwise, it feels like these challenges could really drain you if you're overly focused on them. Um, later on Wednesday, the moon's going to move into your third house over Pluto. So there could be this lightness, I feel like the last few days and the first half of the week, we're going to have this heavy energy. And later on Wednesday, it kind of shifts. And then there's more lightness. It might happen, like I said, because you've been doing things that really help you to feel supported and lighter. Maybe that's leaning on certain people, or certain activities that put you around people that help you to feel less heavy. That's going to be the focus of the second half of the week. There could be something early on Thursday that maybe triggers, again, like I said, this kind of wound or something in your subconscious. Um, Maybe just a mindset thing. And then as we get into Friday, I do feel like there's going to be, again, more emotional harmony around your community, your friend group, what you're creating, how you're giving back and being of service to the people around you with your gifts. And like I said as well, over the weekend, there's this focus on shifting that or refining that in some way. Maybe just through doing collaborations or attracting new people to you to do what you want to do, and calling that in. It also feels like over the weekend, there's a focus on your home, maybe spending more time at home to create or something like that, or really going deep into what triggers came up so that you can shift them at a subconscious level. And maybe you're seeing a healer or something, or getting Reiki to kind of combat or shift the energy of everything that has been coming up. So that's the week ahead for you, Sag. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. All right, Capricorn Rising. We start the week off the moon in your first house. This is like an emotional renewal of you. There could be challenges or conflicts related to that happening in your career. The first half of the week kind of feels a little heavy. It does feel like there's conflicts, there's challenges between you, your relationships, your career, your home. It's kind of like all of your foundations are maybe being challenged or going through an upheaval. But really trust your intuition, trust your instincts on how to go about those changes in a way that is going to be beneficial for you, not only in the short term, but also in the long term. And don't get bogged down by maybe the doubts or the challenges themselves, because they will work themselves out. And you might experience that shift on Wednesday as the moon moves into your second house over Pluto. There could be a shift around money, um, maybe positively related to what's going on in work or your career, maybe new things you're creating or doing, launching, that kind of thing. Like I said, there is all of this harmony happening in your kind of areas of money, career, work. So that's really where you can kind of channel energy that maybe feels frustrating or challenging. Like, what is working and how can you focus on that more than what's challenging? Because it also feels like this whole week there's this push and pull energy between what you're doing in your career and what's going on in your home or your family, that maybe there's wounds or triggers coming up around, maybe through conversation that's prompting for this kind of internal reflection um, in your mindset. And it might also be challenging your relationships, or relationships are challenging you to look at these things. But it's kind of like, what can you do for you? And again, like putting your focus and your energy on what's going well in your work. Um, or what can you do productively to focus on work and money and kind of channel any frustrations into that. As we get into Friday, we're gearing up for the Venus South Node conjunction to peak in your ninth house. There's going to be this big release of your belief systems, your values, maybe fully stepping into your values in a way that there had been this push and pull with before, especially on Saturday, because the moon is going to move into, well, it will be Friday into Saturday, the moon's moving into Pisces in your third house. It is going to challenge Uranus at first in your sixth, so there could be maybe this chaotic feeling while this is occurring, but I do think it's gonna also create this newfound inspiration towards what you're doing and what you're creating that's different. And like I said, supporting these mindset perspective shifts of really stepping into um, the new, really stepping into what has been emerging. It's, how do I say that? Like, if you felt in a liminal space, it's clearing up as we get into the weekend, and there's going to be this renewal of energy related to that. Um, and maybe even your communication too, like how you're presenting yourself or sharing yourself and your ideas to the world. So that's the week I had for you, Capricorn. Let me know how it resonates, and I'll see you next week. All right, Aquarius Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your 12th house. I feel like y'all have really not had the funnest transits lately. Like, there's been a lot going on in a lot of different areas of your life, really calling for identity shifts and sense of self shifts, which are not easy because they impact everything else in our life and vice versa. But on Monday, there could be this tension to really fully shift underneath the surface. So you might be meditating or doing breath work or something to really shift your inner world at a foundational level, so that these changes you're able to better flow with and be a little more mutable with, um, instead of like getting swept up by them. Especially on Tuesday, there could be some sort of major emotional release related to that. Maybe also related to a conversation you have that maybe is challenging and maybe brings up things that about your belief systems you didn't realize were still affecting you. Um, I mean, there's wounds triggers in your kind of communication and your mindset, maybe also related to like what's going on in terms of expansion with work. It just kind of feels like there's a lot of tension um, Tuesday into Wednesday between all these areas, but there is still harmony between your creative passions, maybe romance, maybe dating, and those shifts that are occurring with you, right? So it's kind of like focus on where you can put your energy that's more intentionally positive than getting, like I said, swept up by the challenges and the conflict. But I do feel like either way, there's going to be a shift and a lightness that occurs on Wednesday as the moon moves over Pluto in your first house. There could be this emotional renewal as well related to all of that. Kind of like you had to have a maybe dark night of the soul in order to come out stronger and come out better, and embrace, like I've been saying, adaptability. As we get into Thursday, further, further, furthers that energy of a shift in your mindset and you. Um, yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that. Thursday is really kind of like an integration day. There's not anything super crazy going on. Friday, we have the moon harmonizing with Mercury in your ninth house. So again, there could be some shift in your mindset and your perspective. Maybe related to something that triggers you in your day to day or triggers you with a conversation you have with a sibling or a neighbor or somebody who's really close to you, and it kind of brings up something um that you're like, oh shit, I didn't know I was still like believing that or acting from that place or whatever, and there's a shift that occurs because of that. As we get later into Friday and really going into Saturday, the moon moves into your second house into Pisces. Over the weekend, there's a focus on money. There's a maybe again, there's this kind of shift in your inspiration and your motivation towards creative projects and pursuits that is going to positively benefit your money. And maybe you really start to take action on that over the weekend or start to see that shift happening over the weekend or positive results from that if you've already taken action on it. Again, that's also kind of where the harmony is for you to focus on right now is like, what creative things are you doing and sharing, um, that maybe is a new direction or different than what you have been doing, but it's kind of like put your focus there as opposed to what has been challenging and what has been feeling like a lot of conflict. So that's the week ahead for you, Aquarius. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Oh, almost missed Pisces. All right, Pisces rising. We start the week off with the moon in your 11th house of community, long-term goals, friendship, social media. There might be a change happening there, something you're instinctively led to act on or motivated to act on to change. About your foundations and your structures, maybe even like your relationship with social media or how much time you spend on it or what you do on it. That could be a theme really of the first half of the week. There could be friction and tension between that and maybe what's going on with money. Almost kind of like, okay, well, I make money on social media, so how do I lessen my time there? Blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like let the answers come to you. Maybe through a spiritual practice you've really had to adapt or be more consistent with, or disciplined to, or there's also harmony happening. It's really like at a kind of internal level, but I also think you could call on the supportive people around you if you're lacking motivation or inspiration or answers within yourself. Um, there could be some supportive people that come in to help you. But I also feel like you just need to spend more time with yourself, like removed from distractions, in order for those answers to come clearly in the ways that you need. But there could be, uh, despite challenges and conflicts of Monday and Tuesday, there could be a big shift that comes about on Wednesday. Later on Wednesday, as the moon moves into Aquarius over Pluto in your 12th house, harmonizes with Uranus in your fourth. This could shift a change in your home or family in some way as well, related to what's going on in your inner world, your mindset. Um, but later on Wednesday and into Thursday, there could be something about that that challenges maybe your perspective or something about long distance travel, but I feel like more so it's your perspective, it's your philosophies of life that's being challenged, to really evolve and grow and step outside of your kind of like subconscious comfort zone, and step out of old habits into ones that are going to be more beneficial for you. A really big theme of this week, especially Thursday into Friday. Thursday, the moon's going to harmonize with the sun in your eighth house. There could be a subconscious emotional shift that happens, maybe related to money, maybe related to wounds or triggers that have been coming up around money or your possessions, your resources. And then on Friday, there could be like I said, for earlier in the week, there could be a helpful conversation you have with somebody that helps you to shift that emotionally. I do feel over the weekend there could be related to all that a bigger shift or release of old relationships or how you're going about meeting people or finding people in your life or just how you're viewing relationships in general. There's this big value shift. There's this big maybe release of actual people so you can call in people who are better for you. And then that'll be the big theme of the weekend is like, do the people you have around you really supporting you and the changes you're making and this new identity and sense of self you're stepping into? Or do they remind you more of past patterns or past versions of yourself? Because if that's the case, then they need to be released so you can be supported and stepping into the new you that is emerging through all of this. So that is your energy for the week ahead, Pisces. Let me know how that resonates with you, and I'll see you next week. I think it's so funny. My hair looks like jet black in this lighting. Latanya says, oh, I'm done with all the signs. I love y'all helping each other in the comments. Oh my God, I appreciate y'all so much. Okay, well, let me know how your horoscope resonated with you. I'll have the timestamps up in a little bit. And yeah, I'll see you next week. Bye.